What's up, everybody? Emily Duplessis here from Rental Rookie. Welcome to the third day of our 5-day challenge. It's all about analyzing property for cash flow. I'm jumping on here. It's about 8 o'clock on Wednesday, February 15th. I had to check the date really quick. And we are going to be jumping into talking about return on investment, or ROI, tonight. That's going to be our sole focus. Just kind of recapping over the last couple of nights some of the things that we've talked about. The first night I jumped on and talked about understanding some of the investing lingo that's out there that is sometimes confusing, especially if you're just getting started. So I spent some time talking about that. In your emails, you should have gotten the worksheets that went along with it. Last night I was talking about actually what types of numbers you need whenever you're going to be running a property analysis. So when you're looking at a listing, what are the numbers that you're going to need to be looking for and finding, or then, soliciting from a real estate agent or a listing agent so that you can run a proper property analysis. Then I actually last night walked through a listing and kind of just talked through what I'm thinking about whenever I'm looking at a listing, or Kirk is looking at a listing. What are the things we're thinking about? What are we looking for? What questions are we kind of asking ourselves? And so that was last night. Tonight we're going to be jumping into ROI. So I'll get started here in a minute or two. We'll just wait for a few more people to jump on. I know that some people have mentioned on the Facebook page or commented about some issues with not receiving emails. So I'll say it now, and I'll probably say it again later on in the training as people are jumping in. Make sure that you are checking like the junk or the spam, or if you have a Gmail, the promotions, to see where the emails are coming. Because a lot of you who have mentioned that you haven't received the emails, you are on my email list. And so the emails are being sent. I'm not sure what's happening. So I've, gone ahead and I've resent them to you. Definitely let me know if any of you are having issues with getting those. You can just leave your email or private message me your email, and I'll send it to you again. Because I want to make sure that you're getting the emails, because that's where you're going to be able to get the worksheets. I'll also be sending out, probably after tonight, now that we're kind of midway through the challenge, I'll be sending you out the link to the library page. And actually, I'm looking at the email right now. In the email that I sent tonight, I sent an email at about 6 p.m. Eastern time tonight. And I actually, in the PS section, have a link to the library page that I'm putting together. Yeah, I just wanted to double check that it was there. And so on that library page is going to be all of the videos from the trainings, and also the downloads. So you'll be able to get those as well on that library page. So if for whatever reason you're having some issues with your email, you'll be able to access them in that library page. And like I said, in the email that I sent tonight, it is in the PS section. So you can go ahead and check that out as well. Those of you who are here, remember that as I'm going on, please go ahead and put questions that you have in the comment section about anything. It can be ROI or things we've talked about the last couple of nights, or just general questions that you have. Kirk is here in the chat in the other room with one of our daughters while I'm back in the office doing this, and so he is here. So either I will answer them here on the live training verbally, or Kirk will answer them in the chat. So you will get one of us here to get your questions answered. So make sure that you ask those as we're going on tonight. And I'm going to go ahead and get started because I don't want to take too much of your time, those of you who are here. So as people filter in, they'll be able to ask questions and to jump in where we are. So tonight is all about return on investment. And so I wanted to dedicate an entire training to this because return on investment is so incredibly important when it comes to analyzing rental property, right? And so when we're talking about return on investment, often referred to as ROI, we're talking about that essentially the money that you're putting into a property, right, is going to yield you a certain return. And so, I mean, as cut and dry as it sounds, return on investment really is about the return, the money that you're making back on the investment that you're putting into a property, right? And so whenever it comes to any kind of investment strategy that you're going to use, whether it's rental property or stocks, mutual funds, whatever it's going to be that you're going to invest in, that's kind of like this general type of percentage that you're going to be able to look at across the board in any type of investment. And so ROI is so critical though with any type of investment, but especially rental property, because it really does a couple of things for you. And I want to kind of go over a couple of things. One, I want to talk about how ROI levels the playing field in not only just across different avenues of investing, but also within the rental property niche. And I also want to talk about tonight how ROI is going to help you when it comes to determining whether or not you move forward and go after a property or whether you don't, right? ROI is going to be a major part of that. And then I'm also going to talk about ROI in relationship to like time and effort and risk. And so I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So those are the three things that I really want to talk about and dive into a little bit more deep tonight here on the training. So the first thing that I mentioned is that ROI levels the playing field. And so it's this whole notion that it levels the playing field across different investing avenues. So you could compare the ROI that you could get on a rental property to an ROI that you could get on stocks, to an ROI that you can get on mutual funds or some sort of peer-to-peer lending, whatever different investment strategies that are out there, right? ROI is this percentage that you can compare across the board when it comes to these different investing avenues, even though they're totally different types of investments, right? But this concept of, what is this investment going to yield me in terms of return, you can compare apples. I mean, in a way, we're kind of talking about apples to oranges because a stock is different than a rental property, but the percentage, that ROI allows you to compare that. So, if you haven't bought rental property yet, and maybe you're out there and you're still not even sure if rental property is an avenue that you want to go, maybe you want to sit down and kind of compare what rental property could potentially yield you in return, at least on average of what people look for, versus some of the other different investment strategies that are out there. So definitely ROI, understanding this concept of ROI levels the playing field in the sense that you are able to compare different types of investments against one another to see what's going to work best for you, right? That's definitely going to be huge. So if that makes sense, definitely, as I'm going on here, if something makes sense, sorry, I had a phone call. That definitely helps me know that it makes sense. And if something doesn't make sense, please make sure that you put it in your question in the comment section. The other way that it levels the playing field, ROI levels the playing field, is within the rental property niche, right? So let's say that we have, a property A, and property A is $100,000. That's what it's going to cost you to buy, right? And we have property B, and property B is going to cost you $800,000, right? And so we've got a pretty big gap in terms of property A and property B. And so let's say, for instance, right, that both properties, property A and property B, are going to both yield you $500 a month in positive cash flows. So after all expenses are paid, mortgage payment, utilities, expenses, HOAs, whatever, deferred maintenance, all that extra stuff that are expenses for you, at the end of the day, you're making $500 on both properties. Think about it for a second. On a $100,000 property, right, what your down payment, 20% of that is going to be a lot less than a 20% down payment on an $800,000 property, right? So that total cash that you're putting into this investment is going to be remarkably different between property A and property B, right? It's going to be a lot more cash out of your pocket for property B than it's going to be for property A. Now, when we now look at the return, both properties are making a $500 return. So if we were then to calculate, that ROI, so calculate that total net income that you make over the course of the year, right? So we're looking at, the $500, you're going to go ahead and times that by 12, and that's going to give you that total net profit that you're making. And then you're going to divide that by whatever that total cash was that you just invested into the property. And so I can tell you right now, without doing any calculations, I can pull up my calculator, but I don't need to. Your ROI on the $800,000 property is going to be way less, right, than your ROI on the $100,000 property because there's just way more money out of pocket. And so, you have to think about this notion of ROI also levels the playing field within the rental property niche because it's going to allow you to compare, in this case, apples to apples. You're going to be able to look at, maybe this property is really cheap. Maybe it only is going to cost me $40,000 or $50,000. But I'm going to have to go in and I'm going to have to put a lot of work into it. And it's only going to make me a couple $100, a month versus a property that's maybe, 100 to 150 that maybe is a little bit more cash out of pocket, but it's going to give you a better positive cash flow, which is then going to in turn give you a better ROI or cash on cash return. So it's really important that you think about this notion of ROI and know that it's a way for you to level the playing field, and it's a way for you to be able to compare even within the rental property niche to see what property is going to be best for you in terms of return. Okay. So that's really, 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 really big in terms of, when it comes to deciding whether or not to move forward on a property. Kirk just made a comment. He said it also makes you realize that some properties are worth it ROI wise, but maybe not in terms of total dollar amount. Yeah, that's a big thing, especially if you're just getting started, because when I first got started, I would focus on that total dollar amount. I mean, Kirk, he's in the comments and he can tell you, we used to fight over this in the beginning. I mean, kind of argue. We don't really fight, but I guess argue, because I was so focused on just like the physical aspect of the cash. I wasn't paying any attention at all to the cash that was invested. I was just paying attention to the cash that we were making. But what I've learned over the course of the 4 to 5 years, and why I spend, a big time harping on ROI, is that you have to consider what you're putting into the property versus what is coming out of the property. And so that's how you're going to determine that ROI. So that's super, super important. So that's the first thing that I wanted to talk about on the training tonight. The second thing, before we actually get into like me showing you how to run the numbers, the second thing that I want to talk about is how ROI is going to allow you to kind of come up with this baseline in terms of whether or not you should proceed and go after a property and whether you shouldn't go after a property. So I've alluded to this the last couple of nights where I've talked about, how a lot of rental property investors who are out there kind of have like a baseline ROI that they're looking for. So, we've talked to real estate investors who look for a 10 to 12% return. We've talked to people who are at 15. We've talked to people who are in the 20s. Kirk and I mentioned the other night, we range anywhere, I would say 18, 20. We really shoot for in the 20s. We probably wouldn't go below 15 unless it was going to be like a completely hands-off type of investment. But that is like our baseline. So if we run the numbers on a property, right? We actually spent a lot of time today running numbers on properties because it seems like all of a sudden there's quite a few that we're interested in. It was easy for us to say, okay, we're going to plug our numbers into our property analyzer, which I'm going to show you guys later on tonight. And then, that yields us a 12% ROI on the quick analysis, right? So this isn't taking into some of those even more detailed numbers. It's just the quick and dirty, throw in some of the basic numbers. What's it going to give us? If it's below 15%, we don't waste our time, right? It's not what we're into. So, if it's 18, 20, 22, 26, even more, we're like, all right, yes, let's make a phone call. Let's get a schedule a viewing show so that we can go look at it. We actually FaceTimed with a realtor today our realtor in another town walked through a property and we were on it on FaceTime today so that we could view it. So there are a lot of different ways out there for you to actually be able to view a property. But before you even go down that road, make sure that it makes sense for you. Make sure that it makes sense return wise. So what is your baseline? I know Kirk asked, he said, throw it in the comments. So those of you who are out there, if you have properties, what are you looking, what are you getting? Or if you kind of know what your baseline is, what are you looking for? Orlando, 15%. That's great. Richard, you said you're getting 30% on an $89,000 triplex. Awesome. Where is that property? That's awesome. So you can see, those of you, Richard mentioned this great property that he had. A lot of our properties yield us around 24, 25%. And so deals are out there. Good deals are out there. You just have to find them. It just might take a little bit of extra work, a little bit of extra time to find those properties. Might take a little bit of extra work in running numbers or getting the right numbers and making sure you're doing your due diligence in terms of the numbers that you are, running in your analysis. But that's definitely huge. So this idea of you need to come up with a baseline. So you need to sit down, whether you have a partner, if it's a spouse, if it's a family or friend or somebody that you work with that you're investing in, or maybe it's just yourself. You have to sit down and have that conversation either with the other person or with yourself. What is going to be my baseline? Because it's going to save you a lot of time, because you're going to need a way to weed out properties, because there's going to be so many. Every day there's properties coming on the market. Kirk and I, every time we travel somewhere, when we're like taking off and landing, Kirk is just baffled by all the housing, and it just, oh my gosh, there's so many people and all these people need housing. And so like, what a great investment strategy for anybody is this whole idea of rental property, because people are always going to need a place to live, right? So there are deals out there. You just have to find them and make sure that you run your numbers, but you have to have a baseline ROI. That's critical. All right, number 3, talking about time, effort, and risk. I'm going to take a quick drink of water. If you guys have questions, throw them in the comment section, and we'll go ahead and keep moving. The other thing that I want to talk about that isn't considered when it comes to ROI, right? ROI is pure numbers. And the reality is, when you're an investor, that's a good thing, because as an investor, you don't want to get emotional about properties. You want the numbers to be really the things that are making the decision. So the numbers, the analysis should say, yes, let's move forward, or no, we shouldn't. It shouldn't be any kind of emotional feeling that you feel inside that's making, oh, on paper, this is only giving me a 8% return, but I love the carpet in this one room, right? No, that's not how it is with investing. You need to make sure that the numbers are making the decision for you. But what isn't considered in the numbers is this idea of the time and the effort that you might be having to put into the property. And I'm going to give you an example to hopefully drive this point home a little bit. A couple of years ago, a couple of years ago when Kirk and I first moved back to Pennsylvania, and we were kind of looking into neighboring towns from where we live for potential towns to invest in. I found this deal, I think it was on Craigslist actually. I found this investor who was getting out. He was unloading his properties. He had, oh my gosh, I don't even remember. Kirk can put it in the comments. I don't remember how many he had, but he had a lot, and he was unloading them. And he was unloading them in kind of like bulk. So you could get, I think it was like $75,000 or $100,000, and you could choose like 3 to 5 properties that he had. And you could just take those for this lump sum price. I mean, it was crazy. The idea of it, the concept was awesome. So of course we called, we made contact. I was working at, teaching at the time. So Kirk went down and he spent an entire day with the guy. They drove around this town and the guy showed him tons and tons of the properties that he owned. Basically kind of like, all right, Kirk just said pick 3 for $75K. So that's what it is. You pick 3 for $75,000. So Kirk went around and he looked at all of these. And they were all, for the most part, pretty dumpy. Really kind of the standard of living is below. We kind of have a high standard when it comes to our properties. If it's not something that we would ourselves live in with our children, then we don't necessarily, we won't go after it. And so this situation obviously sounds very lucrative. When we ran the numbers, we were looking at like a 70 to 80% return on our money, right? So legit 70 to 80% ROI on these properties. But what wasn't considered in the numbers was the fact that the properties were all pretty crappy. They would have taken a lot of money for us to go in and fix up to get them to the standard that we would want them. The town in which these properties are located is kind of falling apart. There's a lot of crime. There's a lot of drug issues. And so, the town itself, the community, remember, you don't just invest in a property, but you invest in a town and a community as well. And that just wasn't the type of community that we wanted our properties to be in, because those type of communities typically have certain types of tenants, and those aren't the types of tenants that we want in our properties either. And the guy said, yeah, you pretty much have to go around and pick up the rent, right? Like if you want your rent, you got to go knock on the door and you got to go get it. And we live probably about 45 minutes, 50 minutes from this town. So no, we didn't want to go and pick this stuff up every single month, this rent up every single month, or deal with these types of tenants, or, have the renovations that would go into these properties to fix them up in a town that is pretty much falling apart anyway. So you're not going to be having, nice young families or professionals that are going to be wanting to live in these properties in this part of town. So, yes, it was getting us a 70 to 80% ROI. But the other factors that were playing into this made us walk away from it and say, no thanks. It's not down our alley. It doesn't meet with kind of our foundational goals and what we do with investing. So what isn't considered with ROI are those things like time and effort. So you do have to consider those. I don't like to call those things emotion, because I don't necessarily think it's an emotional thing. I think it's just a logical thing. And so you have to think about what type of time you have to put into things. Would you have the time to drive, almost 2 hours there and back to pick up rent every single month, right? A lot of people don't. I know you don't. You guys are here because you are here in the evenings because you work and because you're busy, you have a life. You don't have time to do that. You want properties that are going to be good properties, that are going to attract good tenants, that are going to be able to be paying on time and things like that, so you're not going to have to deal with that. So definitely something to be thinking about when it comes to ROI. So those are the three main things that I kind of wanted to get across tonight about ROI. And now I want to talk a little bit about how you actually calculate it. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to flip my screen, and I'm going to show you the worksheet that I did send to you in your email. Oh, it'll be nice. I tell you, it will be nice when Facebook figures out the screen sharing situation. That will be wonderful. But this is the worksheet that I sent to you, and it goes ahead and it shows you the total net yearly income divided by total cash invested equals your ROI. So you can see here, this is the calculation. It's super simple. It's a simple division, simple division problem. You take your positive cash flow each month, you times it by 12, and that gives you your total net yearly income, right? You divide that by whatever your total cash invested was, and that gives you your ROI. So here is your example. Let's just say that you had a total net profit of $4,600. You had a total cash in at $21,560. If you divide that out, you're looking at a 21.3% ROI. So it's super, super simple to be able to actually calculate the ROI. The hard part comes into when there are so many numbers, and if you tuned in last night to the training, there's so many numbers that you actually have to find and throw into an analysis that makes it a little bit more difficult. But the actual basic kind of calculation of ROI is super, super simple. So the other thing that I included in the email tonight is actually a link to kind of one of our newest property analyzers. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pull it up here. I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to kind of show you what to do. So in your email, there is a link, and it's going to send you over to this property analyzer. So we actually just kind of revamped our property analyzer. So those of you who are here, if you have signed up for one of our ones, our one on Rental Rookie on our website, we actually just recently revamped this. So this is kind of the newest addition to it. And so I don't know, you can still use the old one. I wouldn't say that they're different. I find myself sometimes even going back and using the old one, and sometimes I use the new one. They both kind of do the same thing. But this one is in Google Sheets. And so if you were looking on the old one, you had to either download it in an Excel or Numbers for Mac. This one is on Google, so anybody can use it. It doesn't matter the type of computer that you have, and so it's super, super simple. But I just want to show you, when you click on it, what you're going to want to do to be able to get in and kind of manipulate the numbers is come up to File and go to Make a Copy. That's the first thing that you're going to want to do. And then you're going to name it, right? And I'm just going to let it as Copy of Basic Property Analyzer for right now. And I'm going to click OK, right? And now it's going to allow you to be able to go in and make changes, right? So the one that pops up initially is kind of the base one. And so in order to be able to, and I have it locked so that you can't just go in and start typing in numbers, because then everybody would see it, right? That's that whole idea of the sharedness of Google Docs and Google Sheets. So once you do that, make a copy, then you'll be able to go in and throw in some numbers, right? So you can see here, once you plug the numbers in down low, up here it's going to give you some nice visuals. You'll be able to see the monthly income versus the expenses. It's going to tell you the ROI and your monthly cash flow. It's also going to tell you, if you're using financing, what your outlook is for mortgage balance, equity, and net income in 5 and 10 year increments. So pretty sweet, and it's super quick and easy to use. Basically all you need to know is that you are going to be inputting information in the gray boxes, right? So if you were looking here, let's say that you found a property, and I'm just going to kind of plug numbers in as we go here so you can kind of see. But let's say you were buying a property for $75,000, right? And you were buying it as a pure investment property, so you had to put 20% down. So that would give you your down payment total. The white boxes automatically calculate for you, right? So let's go ahead and see the interest rate. We can leave that at 4.25. We're looking at a 30-year loan, right? So that's all of your mortgage information. Then down here is upfront expenses. So if you wanted to throw in your vacancy rate, like your total expenses, you could throw that, or your total expenses for the month, you could throw that in there. Any kind of renovations that you're going to be going in and doing right away, you can put that there. Any kind of advertising and listing fees, you can put that there as well. I'm not going to put anything there for the moment, but there is a place for you to do that. Then once you click over to this section, this is your monthly expenses. So you can already see that it's broken down your PITI. Over here on the mortgage information, there was a line for closing costs and annual property taxes. So I'm going to actually throw in some numbers based off of one of our properties. So we bought one of our properties at about $75,000. The property taxes in that area are about between $500 and $600. So I'm going to go ahead and put $570. Our insurance is about $300 on one of those properties. And so this is, again, a ballpark. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but this is a ballpark of what we're looking at. I actually think our interest rate is even lower than that, to be honest, but we'll go with that. So then once we get over here, we have got the PITI, we've got the property tax broken down, the insurance, management fees. If you're planning to use management, you can put that there. We self-manage all of our properties, so I'm not putting anything there. Utilities, the property that I'm kind of using right now, we don't pay any of the utilities. The tenants pay that. And so we wouldn't put anything there. Same thing here, outdoor maintenance. If this is lawn or snow removal, you would obviously put that payment there that you're going to be paying each month. Any kind of HOA or condo fee. We do have an HOA and a condo fee here, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in. Pay $125 a month, and so we're looking at our total payment of around $493. That property that I'm talking about makes us $1,000 each month, and so you can see down here all of it automatically calculates. So the sweet thing about this analyzer is that you don't actually have to do the ROI calculation. It does it for you. You just have to plug the numbers in. Once you plug in that rental income, it automatically calculates your monthly cash flow. It automatically calculates the gross income and the net yearly income along with your ROI, right? So the ballpark numbers on this property are at about a 30% ROI. I think the actual hard number is around 26 or 27. But yeah, so you can see that this automatically calculates it for you. So it's super sweet. Very, very easy for all of you. You guys all have access to it now. It's totally free. It's for you to be able to run property analysis. And actually in tomorrow night's training, I'm going to walk you through, we're going to pull up a listing and I'm going to actually pull information in and we're going to run some analysis together so that you can see kind of what it looks like. At the bottom, the last thing I'm going to mention is that there are 3 documents in here. So you can see that there's one for a single family. There's a document for a multi-unit. And so if you're looking at a duplex or triplex, you would use this one. And if you're looking at a student rental, there's also one here for that, just because the way that the income comes in is a little bit different. And I'll talk more about that tomorrow night. But I just wanted to kind of give you guys a glimpse to it because I sent you the link to it tonight in your email. So definitely get in. I recommend before tomorrow night, get in and play around with it. I'm going to go ahead and get in and play around with it. Get used to kind of putting numbers in, make a copy so that you're able to access it tomorrow night. I think it would be great in tomorrow night's training because I'm going to be going over and pulling up listings and kind of running numbers with you. It'd be awesome if you could be kind of doing it at the same time, just to get your feet wet and just to get used to using the document. Because once you get used to it, it's like couple of minutes you can throw numbers in and you'll have, you know, your ROI will be calculated and you'll be able to decide whether or not to move forward on a property or not. So get in, make a copy of the property analyzer, play around with it, and then be ready tomorrow night whenever we get on for our training. We're going to actually be pulling up listings. So in your email tomorrow, I will send you probably links, either links or screenshots to the listings that we'll use. That way you can pull them up as well. I'll also include, again, another link to the property analyzer. And so that way you can have all of that stuff up too and be playing around. You know, you can have me live on your phone and you can have the stuff up on your computer and you can be playing around with it as well because it takes practice. I mean, it's super simple. It's just about learning how to navigate the document. And so we'll be doing that tomorrow night on the training. So we'll be actually running through analysis and analyzing properties. We're going to be looking at good deals, bad deals, and then I'm going to be actually kind of sending you on your way to be doing properties on your own. So that's what we're working toward here this week. So that pretty much wraps up return on investment tonight. If you have any questions, I know Kirk was in there answering a bunch of the questions, although I noticed that Anna must be crying, so he must be back upstairs taking care of that. Thanks, Richard. I'm glad that you're enjoying it. We love doing this. if you are not tuning into this live, make sure that you still throw questions and comments into the comment box. I'm on here, so I will get those things answered, or Kirk will be on here and get those things answered. Definitely ask. That's how you learn. Ask questions. So, don't ever feel like you have a stupid question. I feel like that's what I used to tell my kids in the classroom all the time. Don't ever feel like you have a stupid question, because we're here to help. And if you're just getting started, I probably had that question too. So go ahead, put them in the comment section. Thanks for all the likes. If something didn't make sense, definitely put it there. If you're still not getting the emails, I mentioned this at the top of the training today. If you're still not getting the emails, check around in your email. Check the junk, check the spam, check promotions tab if you have Gmail, because a lot of you who said you weren't getting them, your names are on my list, so I'm not sure what the disconnect is. But if you're still not getting them, shoot me an email. I know I resent a couple of people the emails today, and I will gladly resend those as well, so that you're getting those. And also, I mentioned earlier at the top of the training today that I've put together like a library page that's going to have all of the videos for the live trainings and the worksheets just hosted on Rental Rookie. So if there's been any issues with email, it might be easier for you to just jump on that page. And so that is in the email tonight as well. I have it up on my computer right here. You can head to rentalrookie.com/access, and that's going to be where you can get access to that. So every day, once we get done with the trainings and I can get the videos uploaded, they'll be on there and you can get access to that as well. So you can head there and check that out. But that pretty much wraps up ROI tonight. So thanks for joining me. I will see you all tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. And until next time, happy investing.